Are you recording this?
Yeah.
I would like to say that I have confirmed that Frontrunner is in fact the best way to travel on the Wasatch Front.
After driving
to Provo today, yeah. Patrons and people you are so
What do you
welcome.
mean? Just because driving is 15 minutes faster doesn't mean it's better?
No, communism.
Oh.
Silence. Wait, where did I even get on the train? Oh yeah, in Provo, that's right.
Really?
Shut up. I'm going to beat
Wait,
you.
did you drive to Provo?
Leave the car.
I park and road.
Park and ride.
From Provo
Drive
station?
to Provo, leave your car, take
Because I have
the
to
train
leave
back.
it there for Sunday when we're going to be biking down in case we have to have like an emergency.
If like the Amtrak
Is
blows
more than
up,
an hour or two late, yeah.
or it just doesn't show.
That's smart.
Yeah. So, anyway.
And then we get to go back on bikes on Monday morning. So exciting.
Yeah, well, Jack's coming. So.
Yeah. Not suspicious at all boarding Frontrunner with 2 bikes each.
That wouldn't
Tell
be
him
suspicious.
what happened.
Yeah, I know.
Train host isn't going to give a shit.
I'll make sure to trip as many circuit breakers as I can while I'm on there.
Would you like to be shot? That's how you get shot.
It's not an airplane, so you can shoot people on it. It's fine.
Train host, armed train host.
Yeah, that's how
Please.
we solve safety issues.
Arm the
on
train
Frontrunner.
host.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, if I had a gun, people would get their feet off the seats when I told them to. I'm just saying.
If the GOP supported the concept of trains, then they would probably say arm the conductors and
Arm
train
the
hosts.
train hosts.
Arm the engineers.
I don't know why you wouldn't support trains, because they'd be great for military. Everything.
What do you mean
Gosh.
you don't want to be able to move tanks and or troops across the country at 225 miles an hour?
Well, you might end up spending money on non-car infrastructure.
Oh, okay.
That's really the main blocker there.
Yeah.
Obama.
It would be awful to have that as a defense.
Yeah, can only spend highway money.
That's how we should pitch it to them.
See, that's how I would pitch it if it was up to me. I'd say having not
Well,
just
you
having
can call
to
it the
like
National Defense Railways Act. Like you called it was
All right.
the National
Okay,
Defense Highways Act is the thing that built the interstate.
Because you could move military equipment on
See,
it.
that's a really good reason for the highways.
Yeah.
But just be like, oh guys, we need to double track across the entire country and to like all of the
Quad-track.
major cities.
It
To
needs
move military
be,
equipment.
It
Yeah.
needs to be electrified so we don't have to rely on foreign fossil fuels
Yeah,
in times of war.
Yeah, yeah. The nation.
War peace.
Yeah, the nation, like we, as a nation, should own separate railroads.
We should-
And maybe not in times of war. We should use them too.
Here's an idea. We
Use
have
them
the
to make
Army
money.
Corps of Engineers run the entire railway
But then they
system.
f***ing work.
Well, probably. I mean, the Army Corps of Engineers are, like, well known for being, quote, technically proficient and, quote, competent.
They might accidentally build a dam on the way.
They are good at that.
Just be careful about that.
This is my same idea as
Nothing
with
wrong with dams.
same idea as with nuclear power.
Yeah.
Make the U.S. military build it, then they'll f***ing do it right.
See, yeah.
I'm going to be recording a second podcast in this booth soon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Political?
No. Well, sort of. My friend wants to do a Star Wars podcast, and
Nice.
it's going to be a Star Wars politics podcast.
Oh,
Have fun.
okay. I wasn't going to say nerd, but yeah.
Rude.
Welcome to the internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah.
This
what
is
was
the
that?
Red Line.
It's Bo Burnham's
He's
Welcome
trying
to
to
the
do Bo
Internet.
Burnham. This is the Red Line Podcast. I am your host, quote, ate a ham sandwich for lunch, unquote, Dunstan. And these are my
Some
co-hosts.
production budget we're on today. Kyle Holland and...
Alex Fielder. Was it a good sandwich?
It had, so I get the, the big blocks of cheese at the store to save money.
Yep.
So I get, some slices of that, put it on some Winco white bread, get some Chick-fil-A sauce because I hate mayo, and spread that on the bread to be
And
mayo.
gays.
And some ham, and I had some tomatoes, so it was a pretty good sandwich.
That sounds like a good sandwich. Today we're returning to BART, the West Coast's great metro system. We'll talk Richard Nixon, Embarcadero Station, and more. After the news.
This is Embarcadero. Transfer here from Unimetro trains, SFMTA cable car service, and the F-Market streetcar.
Or if you want to, go look at the water, you can get out here, too.
Well, yeah, but you have to, walk a ways, because it's not actually on the Embarcadero.
Aww.
It's like a block or two away.
Oh, that's so far.
It is a good transfer to the ferries, though.
Cool. Probably, half the reason it exists.
We'll actually learn the reason why it exists
Whoa,
today.
after
Whoa.
the news.
Catastrophe at 17 South today as a northbound Green Line train struck a car that had run the crossing gates at the 17 South crossing. That's all that really happened. So far what we know is that the driver was 70 years old, carrying one passenger, and somehow went either around or under the gates. Thankfully, both of them have only non-life-threatening injuries, and as far as we know, no one on the train in question was hurt. It did, however, take out the the little crossing gate dealio, and also disrupted service on the Central Corridor for a lovely 4 hours.
So, life hack, when the railroad crossing gate is down, don't skirt it, because it means there's trains coming.
Yeah.
What valuable advice.
I know.
Yeah.
It is kind of wild, though, that it took them 4 hours to fix it, because...
Was it 4 hours to fix it, or 4 hours to investigate and clean up?
I mean, yes, which is fair, but normally it takes us, hour and a half, 2 hours to do that sort of thing, and that's when we kill somebody. It's probably because the crossing gate was taken
It's probably because they totally knocked out the entire crossing gate pole in the middle. That's a lot of damage.
It actually is a lot of damage. I'm
It's-
glad no one was
Can we,
died.
steal the picture of this?
If we ask the person who
I
took
think
it,
I might have a friend who has a picture of it. I'll have them and we can put it up on screen.
we can Twitter DM the person who took it if we want to.
You can also do that if you want.
Taylor
Who is it?
Anderson.
Taylor W.
He'll
Anderson.
he's building Salt Lake. He's not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
He's like a news guy.
Real news.
Yeah, I have a friend who took a picture of it, so I'll just DM them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. This has been the news. Abbreviated edition.
Dun, 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 dun.
The
Can we put
solution,
more
Poor,
elves
poor
on the
white
trains?
people.
the solution
Oh.
is to have more people with jobs in our trains. People with jobs don't
Steal.
generally, yes.
Because if you crime
If
or
you
steal,
have fun fact, if you have economic stability, a place to live and a job,
You don't feel the need to
probably
steal.
don't do crimes.
well, you don't steal because why, and you don't violent crime because then no job.
So in other words, the actual solution to crime is a good social safety net, but we're not ready for that conversation, and neither is BART. So, when we left off, BART had just been bailed out by the California State Legislature to the tune of $150 million. But to keep the project from losing any of its ambitious scope, help would come from a seemingly unlikely source: Dick Nixon's federal government.
Is that even an approved nickname?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
A
cool.
lot of people call him Tricky Dick at the time.
Yeah.
Mostly his political enemies, as I'm sure you can gather, but, you
Yeah.
know.
It's better than Tiny D.
Or Meatball Ron.
Okay, so Nixon
Richard
did
the
a thing.
Sanctimonious.
Ron dishonest.
Okay, so why did the Nixon administration decide to do this?
Because the Johnson administration passed an act about it.
Oh, okay.
It was like the Federal Mass Transportation Administration Assistance Act of 1969 or something.
And then Nixon.
And then Nixon did it. So, but most of these funds went for auxiliary improvements like linear parks under guideways, the new Embarcadero station, and others. The feds also funded over 60% of the cost of the system's original rolling stock because there were cost overruns in that area.
That's very nice of them to bail out BART.
Yeah,
Very kind.
if they do it again.
Then we could have more BART with less knives.
BART Plus.
Oh, they should make a BART expansion and call it BART Plus.
Bart plus Lisa. Bart plus.
They should.
They should make the Lisa line.
They should
Yeah.
rename Caltrain to Lisa.
And BART Plus Lisa is an ambitious expansion plan.
Yeah, we're gonna take BART to Vancouver, Washington. But not
How about we
Vancouver,
take
British
BART
Columbia.
wait, what's the town name?
Which one?
In The Simpsons.
Springfield?
Springfield. Yeah, to Springfield, Missouri.
Any Springfield.
We don't actually know what Springfield they're in. I have a suspicion that it's the one in Massachusetts because Mayor Quimby is a Boston accent, but...
I have a suspicion.
Nuclear power plant nearby,
Yeah,
too.
and that's on the East Coast. They have lots of nuclear power plants. So it is my opinion that Springfield is in Massachusetts.
Anyway, take BART to Springfield.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good
And then we
plan.
have like a weird,
Cross-country
national
railroad.
rail system
Yeah.
that just happens to run off third rail.
Amtrak, except it's reliable, fast, and BART.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Third rail Darwinism, baby!
It's also completely incompatible with all non-BART trains.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no freight priority on this sucker because it runs broad gauge.
With
Saved from imminent financial collapse, the BART project proceeded apace, rapidly bringing the massive L's and subways to completion. An additional
more like W's.
Kyle. An additional
Come on, you were asking
station
for
would be
that.
added on Market Street at Embarcadero in response to a surge of new development along the iconic waterfront road. So when BART started happening, there were all these businessmen in downtown San Francisco who were like, "Hey, I'm gonna build a skyscraper, hey!" And then they built a lot of skyscrapers, and some of them happened to be a little too far from Montgomery Street, so they're like, "Hey, let's build another station."
Yes, you can put people in the skyscrapers.
Yes. Well, mostly jobs in these skyscrapers, not people. But,
Well, people have to go to the jobs, so.
which is why BART is...
Whoa.
Wow, okay.
Is this how a commute works?
The commute.
Yes, the Peninsula commute.
The second. Commute 2.
Uh,
Onto the Bay Boogaloo.
all the improvements and limited cost overruns brought the total cost of the initial 71-mile BART system to $1.6 billion.
Is that today money?
Or about $186 million per mile in modern dollars.
That's today money.
For the highest capacity new build metro in the country.
So how much is Austin spending on its light rail?
I believe it is closing in on $1 billion.
Per mile?
Yes.
Is that because of the stupid stations?
Well, they've gotten rid of the subway sections now, and now they're just planning to build an 8-mile light rail line for $8 billion on the surface.
How are they going to do that with the capital sightline laws?
Batteries, probably.
Kill me.
I don't think that's been confirmed, but I know that with the amount of, quote, value engineering, unquote, they've been doing recently, that battery trains are probably going to become a thing there.
But then with the bad Texas drivers smashing into the battery train, how long is that going to last?
Battery
It's going to
train
make
will,
Chernobyl look like,
bombs.
all the Austin battery trains explode at the same time
In Minecraft.
in Minecraft.
Oh my goodness, but $186 million per mile for a fully grade separated metro. with
Heavy rail metro, not even a light
a heavy
metro.
rail metro with a second metro in it from Uni, and the Transbay goddamn tube.
Yes. Although I would have preferred they kept the Cisbay tube, this woke indoctrination is going too far.
I really like this this header, BART, complete.
Yes.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Imagine completing a project.
By 1972, however, construction on BART's long, winding miles of track was nearly complete. Even on Market Street, which had been under siege by construction crews for nearly a decade, pedestrians and traffic were beginning to have space returned to them.
As they put the ceiling up.
Yeah, no doubt the local businesses that survived were breathing a huge sigh of
survived.
relief. Well, it killed most businesses along Market Street because if your entire street frontage is a construction zone for 10 years,
Yeah.
Yeah, that would do it.
that would be a problem, right? So the first prototype train cars were delivered in 1970, and by 1971, 10 trains were doing 24/7 operations testing on the Fremont line, which is south of Oakland, to weed out operational issues before the system's anticipated opening the next year.
Good planning and no Boeing trains.
24/7 testing.
Yeah, because they wanted to put in a bazillion miles on them to see what their failure rate was and stuff.
I love the ambition.
Average engineer.
Yeah. And then fare technology and rates were also being developed as the entire system geared up for revenue service. The initial fare would be start at 30 cents and be capped at $1.25 with a 75% discount for seniors and kids under 13.
Cool.
Love it.
The fare system was very innovative. It was designed by IBM and the first of its kind. It used reloadable tickets with magnetic strips to store fare data. It allowed for a much faster and more seamless boarding experience than traditional turnstiles, which at the time still often took exact change.
So did they adopt this before MTA? Yeah?
I guess 'cause
BART
they were
is,
building a
I
brand new
believe, the
system.
first people to use magnetic
That-
strip cards.
They probably
It's
spent
genius.
They probably spent some extra money digging out the station on making a giant hole for the huge computer.
I mean, probably.
Well, I say that's a great use of technology.
I agree.
Yeah.
The staffing levels were also increasing rapidly. At the beginning of 1970, there were like 600 BART Rapid Transportation District employees. By
BART
like
D.
BART D, yeah,
Came
Bay
up
Area
with
Rapid
that.
Transportation District. And by the beginning of 1972, there were over 2,000. So they're
Oh my
like
gosh.
they're gearing up.
Hey, jobs be like.
Yeah, and then, you know, I kind of got to note this, but the completion of BART really represented a revolution in technological affairs for rapid transit around the country and the world, let's be clear, showing that a metro can not only move a shit ton of people, but also be clean, comfortable, and modern.
Yeah, it is hella cool that for $186 million a mile, BART did just about everything cutting edge.
And that's that cheap with cost overruns.
REM is the BART. The REM is the BART of today. Discuss.
Agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It is everything cheap and it's very innovative.
and top of the
yeah,
line train
it's-
control systems, for
It's
example.
self-driving, isn't it? And it,
So is BART.
oh, bias.
Yeah, but it
Okay.
requires operators because no one trusts it.
Honestly,
That's fair.
in the 60s and 70s, fair.
If it wasn't designed to be, was it designed to be self?
The trains drive themselves unless something goes wrong, at which point the operator drives it.
And it was designed that way.
Yes.
Yeah, like one time they had a
Wow.
fire in the Transbay tube, and they just had the operators drive the trains through the tube.
Cool.
It was quite an event. We could probably do a whole episode about just that fire.
Oh, I didn't even look that up. You should look it up now and get the Wikipedia article so we can have an anecdote.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super modern, all sorts of like, you know, ATC and crap, and very fancy. And, you know, for decades afterwards, people were literally taking joyrides on the system because it was one of the technological marvels of the 20th century at that point. So, like,
See, that's what I say when we need a project like this
I know.
in the country again. We need something to
We
be
need,
this
like-
proud of.
we need to, like, find a city, right? Like, what is a great American city that's underserved by public transportation? Like,
List of cities.
I want to say Salt Lake.
well, great American city, Alex.
Hey, we're pretty great. So
I don't know.
What are
Denver?
cities? Remember the Great Qualifier?
oh, okay. Oh my God! Yeah.
Wow, Kyle, wow.
Okay,
Miami.
No, Miami already has a metro. Kind of sucks, but they have one. Let's say Seattle, right? We need to build like a brand spanking new 71-mile rapid transportation
Gee
system
whiz,
for
good thing we already
Seattle
have $50 billion of funding earmarked to make all 3 miles of this system.
to make all 3 miles of light rail. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Oh, that was another news thing, but the bridge pylons on I-90 for the new like line over the bridge have to be replaced, all of them, because they were all done wrong. So it's going to delay the opening of the thing that was delaying already by another year.
Like the ones that hold it up from the water.
Link light rail is terrible.
Wait, is this a floating?
No, I
No?
think this is on a different bridge.
Okay.
But anyway, it's bad.
Special.
It's a shame I love Link so much.
No, Link is great. It's just like, why on earth did you choose to do it with low floor light rail vehicles is a great question.
I still love it. It's still got such a special place in my
They should
heart.
have at least done it like Calgary style with high floor vehicles.
Like,
Especially with how crowded those trains are all the time. But anyways,
Oh yeah, the Transbay Tube Fire of 1979.
when
It's
we
very
get to
famous.
1979. we'll
Oh
do that.
yeah.
So, the first segment of the BART system finally entered revenue service on Monday, September 11th in 1972.
Okay. I won't say it.
So, BART does celebrate its anniversary on a rather unfortunate day.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did they open it on that day? But then I remembered what year.
Gee, how dare BART open on 9/11 30 years before 9/11?
29.
Oh. And then, only 1 month after opening, a BART train overran the tail track at Fremont Station and crashed into the ground, injuring 4 people.
Yeah, it's about that automatic train control.
Okay,
So you
injuring
can see
4
why
people,
they don't trust.
that could be worse.
But it overran the track under automatic control.
Which should not be physically possible.
And so, apparently, this was a whole scandal. Several engineers had been concerned about the safety of BART's ATC system as early as 1969, but had been fired by the district's board for their complaints.
Ooh.
An inquiry would take place in the California State Legislature, ending in the eventual sacking of BART's general manager in 1974. Thankfully, no one died in the incident, and problems were resolved with the ATC system eventually, but the accident left BART with a poor first impression and a reputation for bad safety.
Lesson learned, if you do a cover-up, you'll get covered up.
In dirt underground.
Or, more likely, in termination paperwork.
Yeah.
Followed by dirt.
That's...
I mean, I'm sure the guy is dead now. He was, general manager of a major transportation agency in 1974. He was,
old.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway. Other operating segments would enter service by 1974 when trains began running through the Transbay Tube.
Oh, so did they just run on the Oakland side before then?
Yeah, so for 2 years there was only service on what is now the Orange Line.
Oh,
because the Transbay Tube took a lot longer to finish than everything else because
That's
it was,
fair.
a 3.8 mile underwater tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very fair.
But ridership on BART remained low in the early days. It's probable that this is mostly because of the A, economic recession that was happening at the time, and B, everyone thought that the train would explode and crash because a month after opening the train had exploded and crashed.
Yeah, that's valid concerns. Yeah.
Right, if UTA was derailing trains on a regular basis, I would probably start, at the very least, taking the bus.
I would 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by the 1990s, ridership levels were getting up to snuff and growing rapidly, promoting several expansions of the system. The first of these was to Pittsburgh in the East Bay, adding a 5th line to the BART system, which is now known as the Blue Line. Although they don't officially use color names for their lines. There's a fun fact about BART. It's just like the Daly City Pittsburgh line.
What year is it?
Or the Richmond Bay Fair line or whatever,
I think naming lines colors is why wouldn't you do that?
Good up to 5 lines. That is my first, final, and only opinion on it. Once you get more than 5 lines, you need to not use colors anymore.
Once you get to the brown line, you should give up.
Yeah, Chicago.
The hoop-colored line.
Oh, we have the pink line, the purple line, the blue line, the red line, the orange line, the green line, the yellow line.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about the visualization of the color. Just think of it as a name.
The stinking purple line should just be call the red line the 1, right? It should be the 1X. Honestly, I'm getting mad about Chicago now. But anyways. Then it was the 21st century, and another expansion was completed in 2003 to SFO Airport and Millbrae on the San Francisco Peninsula. Ridership also began to skyrocket in the 21st century as Silicon Valley brought hundreds of thousands of new jobs and the workers to do them to the Bay Area and downtown San Francisco, as well as downtown Oakland. This, combined with high gas prices and an extremely congested freeway system, was a recipe for success.
Yes.
BART's design capacity, how many people it's designed to carry a day.
A fucking lot.
Well, actually, is not as large as you would think.
Don't they only run trains every 3 minutes through the Transbay Tube?
You can't really do more than that, I don't think, because of the way it's designed. Because of the Oakland Y.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very complicated. But it's not designed to move that many people per day. Its design capacity is supposedly something like 200,000 people per day, is like what designers thought would be riding it at like maximum times, right? By 2000, it's doing that, and then it keeps growing. So BART modernized the system at this time, improving signaling in the late aughts to run trains every 15 minutes instead of the 20 that had been standard before. Yes, BART had 20-minute train frequencies until about 2010. Shrink that
like
up.
30 interlining.
Yeah. So, well, 20-minute train frequencies on each line.
Yeah, with like a bajillion interlining.
Yeah, but 3 trains per hour times 5 lanes is only 15 trains an hour.
Yeah, on this infrastructure.
That is true. And then they also undertook a fleet modernization program beginning in 2012, which is still ongoing, creating the, quote, fleet of the future.
Ooh.
I said the episode title. Which are still some of the most advanced heavy rail rapid transit cars in service in the United States. They featured improved seating, better sound cancellation, as well as real-time display capabilities and safer passage between cars.
Sweet.
Very good.
Yeah.
They're
And
nice. I
they're
will be
quieter.
honest. The Fleet of the Future cars are very nice. And the real-time tracking is very helpful, especially since you can't get, like, good cell service unless you have Verizon in the tube. So, yeah. And then expansions in ridership heated up at the end of the 2010s with over 400,000 people, which, as we discussed, is way above the capacity that it was designed for, riding every day. During commuting hours, the Transbay Tube carried nearly 30,000 people per direction per hour, over twice that of the Bay Bridge above.
Huge win.
Such a huge dub
Especially
for transit.
given that after all the earthquake retrofits that both of them got, it's been way cheaper.
Yeah.
Like many billions of dollars.
Like, the only other place in the United States where you can, like, cite a figure like that, like, oh, X transit line carries so many more people than X freeway, is New York, and it's just the East River tunnels, which carry, like, 2 million people a day.
Oh my goodness. Because, yeah, these sorts of choke points are rare.
Right. You don't get a lot of cities with that kind of geographic choke point.
Yeah.
So, and nobody's driving, like, all the way around the bay to get to the East Bay from San Francisco,
No.
Hey, we could build some crazy transit here because we have
actually
choke
do
points.
have some geographic choke points.
We have
if
point on the mountain. We have the other point on the mountain.
If we were a much larger city, Frontrunner would probably see numbers like that. But we're not a large enough city.
We're a great American city. Deep down.
Deep down. Like below the level of the giant hole they built for the temple down.
Big hole.
That's what she said.
I love this podcast.
I don't.
Certainly
I
one
want
of
to
the
die.
podcasts.
Yeah. So then more extensions were done. The Oakland Airport, the Beige Line in 2014, which is the weird Gadget Bond line that everyone hates.
So is that the airport one?
Yes, it is.
That
The one that
costs
Ethan and I rode
$6.70,
that costs like $6.70.
and AC transit fares like $2.50 or $3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It was fun though.
Great. Maybe it should be like affordable.
I think it was faster than you as well.
Yeah, is that worth the fare difference?
Probably.
If you're in a rush.
Yeah. If you're a business traveler.
Good
Dude.
clientele to cater to on a mass transit system exclusively.
Well, it's not exclude. Okay. Anyway. And then they did E-BART to
Widely touted as bad and dumb.
Yeah, E-BART in 2018, which is bizarre because instead of just extending BART like a normal person, they built a separate DMU line that has its own dedicated transfer station that you can't get to except by train.
It's transfer only. You can't leave it.
So you get off your regular BART, like, yellow line train, and then onto a DMU, and then you go.
And then, from what I've heard, all the other stations are shit, too.
Well, they're all freeway median stations.
Like I said, from what I've heard, all the other stations are shit, too.
Okay.
So it's kind of bizarre.
Man, freeways kind of make everything suck.
And then they have done more expansions towards San Jose in 2017 and 2020. That's on the south end of the former Fremont line. Now it connects with VTA Light Rail, which is fun. And then a further, somewhat controversial extension will be completed into downtown San Jose in 2030.
Explain the controversial.
So a 5-mile, $5 billion deep-bore subway is planned to be the centerpiece of this extension, which is the source of much of the controversy.
Okay.
Because people in the Bay Area
are like, wow, that's
most
a lot
of the
money.
subways, all the subways they have, except under the Berkeley Hills, are cut and cover. Like the Oakland subways are cut and cover, the San Francisco subways are cut and cover. And so everyone in San Francisco is like, well, we've always done BART cut and cover. Why are we spending so much more to tunnel under mostly suburban areas at $1 billion a mile?
Because we saw Muni did a tunnel, and we want tunnels.
Yeah, and that worked out so well.
Sure.
Because the T-Third is doing great in terms of ridership in the Central Subway since they opened.
Cost was fine. Yeah, why are they tunneling?
Because downtown San Jose needs a subway like the real downtowns of San Francisco.
If even if we're doing that, why not do cut and cover?
Like, honestly, downtown Berkeley is probably better than downtown San Jose in a lot of ways. but you know, they gotta have a subway, so...
So, $1 billion a mile.
Yeah.
Why don't we
before cost overruns?
Which will occur.
Why don't we just do elevated through downtown San Jose?
Hiss, boo.
It's futuristic or whatever.
Elevated bad.
It would look awesome.
It would look fine. The BART elevated guideways are fine.
We could make it look awesome.
We could.
If we tried.
The BART elevated guideways are tiny.
And also fine. The stations are fine.
If you don't
we could make it look wonderful.
If you don't like the way the elevated guideway looks, pay an artist to paint on it.
Yeah.
And then it looks better.
Paint it blue so it blends in with the sky.
Yeah, we'll paint some little fake cloud wisps on it.
Yeah.
And paint pollution on it.
Actually, San Francisco area is pretty clean air.
Because they have no wind. Lucky.
I know.
Cheat code.
I hate that. I'm jealous.
Yeah, but then,
COVID.
Ridership dropped by nearly 93% in the beginning of the pandemic and has only recovered to about 40%, which, to be fair, is a lot closer to design capacity than the pre-pandemic crush loads. And weekend ridership is closer to 60% of pre-pandemic levels,
and
which is
these
good.
stats are way worse than like most other major transit agencies.
Yeah, well, not way worse, but significantly worse.
And B, fair money.
Yeah, so the reason that this is a problem... Okay, well, let's get into why they did, and then we'll discuss why it's a problem. So, this has been spurred by the slow or maybe lack of recovery in downtown San Francisco and Oakland. Both of these were very tech-heavy downtowns, and tech jobs are often the easiest to take online, so the least people have returned to the office. And San Francisco in particular has seen a lot of, so there's office occupancy and office vacancy, right? Mm-hmm. Office occupancy is the amount of people who allegedly have jobs in downtown who are there every given day, right? Mm-hmm. In most U.S. cities, that's 55 to 60% at the moment. The same is true in San Francisco and Oakland. However, unlike other U.S. cities, they have massive vacancy rates as well.
Like just unleased office space?
Unleased office space. So it's like close to 30% of downtown San Francisco's office space is just unleased at the moment, and that number is expected to rise.
Turn one of them into a grocery store. I heard the whole kerfuffle about the Whole Foods.
Well, Whole Foods is closing because, quote, crime, unquote.
So we moved down there and opened the Redline podcast office downtown.
Look, I made a Twitter post about this the other day. I am just waiting for office prices to drop to the floor in San Francisco to open, strap hanger studios at, 1 Market Street in downtown San Francisco.
Somebody else can make, a paintball room or something. There's so much you can do with this big open floor space.
You could do a paintball room in a high-rise, couldn't you?
What?
People would love that.
That would be so cool. Would lose their 40th floor of a, office tower, you go play paintball or Nerf darts or some shit, and you can look out.
Imagine, 2 or 3 floors.
Yeah.
And you run between them. And
dude, and that wouldn't even change live loads at all because that's not significantly heavier than office equipment.
It would be lighter probably.
Yeah. Dude, holy cow.
Dude! The only thing you can't do in these high-rise is residential when they're built for office.
Well, you can. It just makes kind of weird floor plans.
It's expensive and weird.
It's not always expensive.
But it is
It
always
just makes weird floor plans.
Yeah, but as opposed to doing like paintball or a grocery store.
Oh, I'm gonna have one Market Street paintball in downtown San Francisco, and you get to look out over the. You get to pretend that you're like in Die Hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot the windows with the paintballs.
Dude.
That'd be so cool.
Well, you can put netting up in front of the windows so they don't get like.
They put secondary windows in front of the windows that you can shoot with paintballs.
Well, there's like paintball netting that you use to keep
Yeah.
because you're worried about shattering the windows as well at that pressure.
Okay,
Just
so
put up plexiglass.
yeah, put
over the
plexiglass
windows.
in front of the windows.
Yeah, you're gonna have to clean it every day though, because you want to maintain your Die Hard
This
vibes.
is what you pay your staff to do.
Ah,
Jobs.
in downtown San Francisco.
See? Good commuter jobs.
That would actually be really cool. I'm pretty sure zoning wouldn't allow it, which is why
That's dumb.
zoning reform, people should be able to do whatever the hell they want.
Why the hell would zoning not allow this? It has no impact on the character of the neighborhood.
Because San Francisco has embraced process as for its own sake. Does
Nerd.
that make sense? So, as a result of all this crap, revenue has fallen rapidly, and BART, historically, 76% fare box recovery.
Very
And
high.
Now, suddenly, they have a $250 million per year funding shortfall because they're not carrying massive crush floats all the time anymore.
So now they're down to like a more like normal amount of fare box revenue relative
Yeah,
to
it's
operating
like
expenses,
30 or something,
which is not great.
which is
but,
good for America.
Well, like 30 to 60% is like fine.
Yeah. So, this shortfall isn't a thing yet because federal pandemic aid. But
COVID money.
in 2025, BART will need a dedicated source of funding. Otherwise, they will have service cuts, which means, A, this is what the BART board has said they will have to do if they don't get the money. No weekend service. And no service after 9 p.m.
Death spiral much.
Is this like just to be over dramatic to
No.
ensure they get funding?
No, they couldn't afford to do it.
Okay, so
Like,
they're being realistic.
This is
Okay.
what they would have to do because they have to maintain service during the times when they get their most ridership, which is still during, daytime commute hours. And they can't afford to run service outside that time anymore because they don't have the money.
Okay, I feel like they might have been a bit dramatic to really. Okay.
Two things.
There have been some independent watchdog transit agencies in the Bay that are like, yeah, that's probably about what they'd have to do.
Jeez.
Two things. One, that is just a really big gap in amount of money they have versus they need. And the other thing is, if you ever look at any transit agency budget, they've got this whole big budget number that is their annual budget, and then only a relatively small portion, maybe half, 2/3, is scales with the amount of service they run. So if you have this fixed amount of your budget, 1/3 of your budget that you have to spend, so your infrastructure doesn't crumble into dust,
Right.
and all your staff don't just go away
Because
and you fail to be
BART
an organization.
spends every year about 40% of its budget on maintenance.
Good.
Because
So you have to spend that regardless
And then,
of how much
you gotta
service
spend,
you
like,
run.
depending on the size of your agency, 20% on administration you just have to spend because otherwise, everything falls apart. And then suddenly,
So
the money's shrinking, so
most
all
of the
all
shortfall comes
cuts
straight
come
out of
operations.
operations.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's the only thing they can scale
Jeez.
effectively.
And then,
This is going to be a bad death spiral.
oh man, Bay Area Transit could go into the worst death spiral you can possibly imagine, except for Muni.
Yeah, no,
And
Muni-
VTA is pretty proof
Muni's
as
gonna-
well.
Muni's going to keep going.
Thanks, Proposition K. Your tax dollars at work.
Hey.
But
We
BART
should-
has also faced concern about safety in the wake of the pandemic
Yep.
after a rise in assaults and stabbings and theft and all other manner of crimes.
Very fair concerns.
So maybe they should spend less of their operations funding running
No,
knives through the system
here's an
and more of it
idea.
on trains.
Instead of that, we're going to buy taller fare gates, which will be implemented at select stations at a cost of $90 million later this year.
That's kind of funny.
I think instead of doing that, they don't have any just people on the trains.
They have ambassadors
They
now.
do? Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
not,
Okay,
as,
never
not as
mind
big
then.
of a program as some other places, but they have them.
I was going to say we should get old people, people's grandparents
Like
on the
Walmart
train.
door greeters.
Yeah, exactly.
Be like,
Because
Sonny, you need to stop stabbing that other young man.
who's going to commit crimes in front of old people?
I think your mentality is that of like what I would describe as a normal person who doesn't do crime.
Okay, well.
Okay, so
yeah, that's fair.
Given that BART can't solve like the cause of the crime problem, which is lack of social safety net,
which is the fact that there are a ton of people who have nowhere to live and no prospects in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, so given that BART can't do anything about that as an agency, what really can they do about crime? Other than be like, hey, please don't crime on our train, please crime somewhere else.
Yeah, crime outside the station, please.
So that's kind of what they're doing
the point of the fare gates.
Which, as much as I want to laugh at this, maybe not the worst idea.
Kyle, we saw people fare dodge. They didn't jump the gates, they pushed them aside.
The new ones are also stronger.
Are they?
Yeah, they do like 2 air pressure levels, one when they're open and closing, and then they extra pressure once they're closed.
Ooh.
So you can't shove them open.
That's an interesting idea.
So it's funny.
It could maybe help.
We will see how the results are, but I feel like it's maybe not the worst idea, given that they can only do some things.
Yeah, well,
as an agency.
So in conclusion, BART good, but it faces some serious challenges moving forward, especially in securing funding for future revenue service. So far, California has shown no interest in bailing out Bay Area transit, so it may be up to federal or local actors to save BART from becoming a true commuter-only system,
imploding.
or just not.
Why would California have no interest in this?
Because the census has decided, based on 1 year of trends from the pandemic where population decreased, that everyone is moving out of California and cities in general, which is probably not true.
No.
According to some other researchers. So California has decided that it needs to adopt a scarcity mindset towards budgeting certain things, and since, just like every other American state in the West, California is a car state.
But
maybe California should recognize that people don't just move places just because they move it because of a bajillion and a half external factors. The reason people are moving to Texas from California is because your housing costs too much. That is the only reason. I'm sorry, Dad. People are not moving out of California because of the woke agenda or whatever. People like living in California. That's why the housing's so goddamn expensive.
Because California is fucking great, dude. Like...
So, like, if they want more people in California, ergo more tax base, ergo less social problems like massive amounts of violent crime in San Francisco.
No.
Sorry, on BART.
Not really that much.
And massive amounts of property crime in
There
San Francisco.
you go. Massive amounts of property crime. That is the California problem.
That is the California way. Then maybe they should make housing goddamn cheaper.
Interesting.
And maybe downtown San Francisco should also like diversify the jobs it has available.
Paintball.
Like, as much as we love office jobs, it's 2023. We've seen what's happening with like remote work and stuff, so that's probably going to start chipping away maybe like 10-20% of office jobs. You'd better find something else to put there, like paintball. I
am, not to be like contrarian here, but I am a little skeptical of the degree to which office jobs will be replaced forever, and how much of what we're seeing is a particularly American trend. Because, and I have proof and a backing of my logic here, in central business districts in other parts of the world, Europe, Mexico, Canada, New York City, Chicago, Asia, office occupancy rates in places outside the United States and Canada are generally up to like basically 100% of pre-pandemic levels, even in places with tech job sectors that are heavy. And in New York City and Chicago, which are, our two big, great central business districts, they're closer to 75-80% office occupancy. And in Canada, it's the same. So maybe the reason that people are so reluctant to return to the office in the United States is less about a particular desire to work from home and more about the fact that our central business districts generally just suck ass.
Maybe we should treat this like we're treating every other COVID reduction in people thing and be like, hey, COVID stole 30% of people from X activity or X place. We can get back to 70% easy by doing the same thing. But if we want to get back the extra 30%, and beyond, we need to make X place or X activity better or more attractive.
Right. Well, and part of that is, like, commuting in the United States generally sucks. You have a 40-minute freeway commute in
Good God,
traffic.
every single Reddit thread about, like, work from home or whatever is like,
commute.
I hate my commute, I hate my commute, I hate my commute.
just the
I'm
commute.
saving so much time that I'm not doing my stupid 2-hour car commute. My God, I'm free, I can breathe.
It's just the commute, right?
Yeah.
Like, people... That's one of the reasons why people are, like, more likely to return to the office in places like Europe, because you have a relatively stress-free 30-minute train commute.
Dude, I'd return to our we live in downtown. I'd return to our offices any day.
Yeah, because it's a 5-minute walk.
Yeah.
But, like, anyway, I'm a little skeptical of the, like, we're going to lose 20% of office jobs permanently due to work from home, because in other places that has proven not to be the case. Where their central business districts and commutes simply do not suck.
And I'll reiterate this from the COVID angle of, we lost 20% of office workers. We sure did. Now let's get more of them
paintball
back.
on One Market Street, please.
Yeah. Now let's get something back, because it happened.
Do you think that employers are slowly going to realize that being in the office increases productivity?
Well, it does, but...
I know, but, like, actually realize it and
Well,
be like, we need more productivity.
Employers have wanted everyone back in the office since 2021. It's just in the United States there's this particular resistance to going back to the office because, once again, it sucks. Central business districts in the United States are extremely sleepy and creepy and boring. And the commute is terrible, and you're in traffic for 2 hours every day.
So this really shouldn't come down to what the employer wants or what the employee wants, because that's just creating a lot of unhealthy tension and turnover. It should come down to making downtown a nice place and using modern technology to accommodate remote work where appropriate.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe making the better commute option that isn't quite so stressful, safe, and attractive to use.
Yeah, because...
Max! BART!
you can't say go ride the BART when you might get stabbed on the BART.
Well, or when you think you might get stabbed on the BART.
Or when somebody...
No one's getting stabbed on the
Or
BART
when somebody your
hours.
friend knows got robbed at knife point.
This is true. We did talk to someone who knew someone personally who had been robbed at knife point.
Like,
when we
this
were
is
in
the
Bay Area.
metric of...
That doesn't shock me.
No.
This is the metric of, has something gotten bad? Has someone your friend knows had it happen to them? Then it's bad.
Yeah.
Basically.
And here's where BART is.
You see, no one my friend knows has been, like, stabbed on tracks.
See? Therefore, tracks is fine.
Yep. For stabbing.
This is a very good rule of thumb.
Yeah, well, if you don't want to see crazy people, maybe avoid it at night. But
Well, maybe we should have more bar hoppers on tracks at night, eh?
Yeah,
well, that
young
would be
people
helpful.
to
That would be
fight.
helpful if tracks ran late enough to be useful to bar hoppers.
Make the tracks Utah loop that's in the shape of the state of Utah run 24/7.
Utah would?
Remember from the Rear
Yeah,
Grand Plan
we have
episode?
that plan. Shape of Utah.
Anyways, make the tracks loop run 24 hours so people can bar hop all night long.
Also note there is now going to be a second Trans-Bay crossing, and it was anticipated that BART would have 2 tracks through it.
But the cost snake bit it.
Cost snake bit it. Now it's only going to be for Caltrain and CHSR. So
Okay.
BART, if
Right.
BART gets saved from imminent downfall.
on the upside, Caltrain will be in the East Bay someday, which is cool.
Yeah.
And
Caltrain and BART can both go there.
yeah.
I feel like it's
And you
probably
can
good.
actually have trains into San Francisco from places like outside of. You don't have to go to like Oakland or Emeryville to catch a train anymore.
Capitol Corridor into San Francisco. When?
And yeah, so that's all I have. Anybody have any other further comments?
The 1979 BART tunnel fire.
Oh yeah, tell us about the 1979 BART.
I should link this really nice article that recounts it minute by minute. But BART trains, right? They're trains. They have mechanical components. Well,
Interesting.
one of them fell off of a train into the Trans-Bay Tube. And they're like, oh, that made some weird noises. And so they ran an inspection train through right after it. And the inspection train was like, seems fine. And then later,
Turns out,
they ran another train down it, which caught on a piece of metal that fell into the tube, and then that got caught on like the third rail and some other junk, and made a big sparky, fiery mess. And then lit a bunch of train components on fire, and some like air cushions blew up, and then which made the train fall on the floor, and then the fire went in the train, and all the seats were made of flammable polyurethane, which makes like toxic black smoke and spreads fire everywhere. So the seats were billowing smoke everywhere. So, they turned on the fan vents in the tunnel or whatever, because that's good. And the train crew is keeping everybody, herding everybody into like one car away from where the smoke is going, and they get like fire and rescue on site and all that, and this whole big coordination mess with like interagency coordination.
Great.
It was not pretty. They were so close to this being like a mass casualty event. And at some point, they get a San Francisco bound train that's like crush loaded with like 1,000 people on it. They commandeer that, bring it into the other not yet burning tube, and use it to evacuate the passengers. And then later, the fire and rescue is still working, and they realized they left some of the doors into the service tunnel open, so the smoke went in the service tunnel, and people died.
Good. That's good. So,
Anyways.
please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and to leave us a rating on iTunes and Spotify. If you like what we do here, please consider becoming a member on Patreon. Patrons get early access to our regular content, as well as a bonus episode roughly every month, along with other benefits like stickers. Speaking of patrons, ours are at $69.69 per month, double-tracked, fully electrified
Tuella to Park City.
Tuella to Park City Frontrunner tier. We have Zach Adams at regular Frontrunner tier, $10 a month. We have Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Mike Christensen, and Phobos 2390.
Frontrunner to Reno, Nevada 1. Frontrunner the Salt Flats.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Frontrunner takes over the Zephyr
Yeah,
routes.
where all the people live. Yeah, the Salt Flats.
Yeah, Wendover. Big commuting suburb of Salt Lake City.
It would be popular with gamblers.
When is Frontrunner just going to parallel the Zephyr
How
route?
many people are like...
I would take the train.
You would.
I know at least one other person who would.
Will would.
They have a bus. Why not have a train? They have a gambling bus. Anyway.
Just run a Frontrunner.
Our red line tier at $5 a month, we have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, DJ,
Hi, Will.
Watkins, Jacob Whitecotton, Reluctant LA Resident, Robert P. Walsh, and Scott Harris.
Blue Line tier, $3. Carrying as always, we have Patrick Salas, Alex Dykelski, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, Elijah Kensler, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, G4, Gonzo 12, Jack Dean, John Heron Gorman, Martine Hecker Martinez, Old Trolley, Schuyler Hall, and Seth.
Woo! Thank you all.
Yeah, for funding our fun projects, which we promise we'll send to you eventually.
Yeah.
This has been the BART Part
The
2.
Red Line Podcast. Whoa.
Woke.
Like
Okay.
Mr. Beast.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, I didn't get that immediately.